Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and welcome to the Great League Remix Cup. This is a Great League format where the top 20 most popular Pokemon have been banned, and there's one big new addition, Carbink. Now, Carbink hasn't had its global release yet. Currently, the only way to have it is if you have a global GoFest ticket, so until it gets its global release, it honestly feels like a pay-to-win Pokemon. So this week, I'm going to be focusing on how to absolutely destroy Carbink, and today, we take a look at Shadow QUAGSIRE. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Shadow QUAGSIRE destroying Carbink in the Great League Remix Cup. Hopping into the first match, picking up a decent lead, Toxapex into Cresselia. My opponent save switches into Dubwool, and I get to respond with Surfetched. This team is built so that there is 0 Pokemon on the team that have a losing matchup going up against Carbink. Toxapex, Surfetched, and Shadow QUAGSIRE all do extremely well, so if your opponent has a Carbink anywhere on their team, you should be in a pretty good spot. I'm able to KO with the Leaf Blade. They send back in Cresselia. Here, maybe I could have made the Brave Bird. I was scared the Psycho Cut was going to be enough to KO. As you see, I do end up living the Psycho Cut, so I think I could have made it to the move. But either way, we're still in a pretty nice spot. I landed the Leaf Blade, which is some pretty nice damage. And Cresselia in this format is typically running Grass Knot and Moonblast, which means that I can tank charge move after charge move onto the bulky Toxapex. My opponent will actually go down a shield, and that works great for me. A Shadow QUAGSIRE up a shield in this format basically beats everything that isn't a grass type. They're firing off another Grass Knot. I don't have to shield this. I'm going to be able to withstand that damage. I make it to the Sludge Wave, and now the question is, are they willing to give up that final shield? They are not. In the back, it's Carbink, and this is just an absolute slaughter. Shadow QUAGSIRE is basically able to two-shot with Mud Bombs here, and QUAGSIRE is just absurdly spammy. QUAGSIRE making it to 2 Mud Bombs before they even make a move. They are going to commit the shield. At this point, I have 2 shields. I should probably use one in case they full send the Moonblast. They end up baiting with the Rock Slide, and it's just not going to matter. The speed of Shadow QUAGSIRE KOs the Carbink, and that's a good game. We've got a core breaker on the lead in the next match, Toxapex versus Toxicroak. Now, Toxicroak, of course, can do pretty well into both the Surfetched and the Toxapex. So I'm going to stay in with the Toxapex, deal as much damage as I can, and maybe even get a shield advantage as well before I send in my back Pokemon. I'm firing off the Brine, opponent commits an early shield, and that works out great for me. They're going for Mud Bomb number 2 into the Toxapex. Mud Bomb will not KO, and now I switch into the Surfetched. In comes Golbat, not what I was hoping to see. Golbat will fire off the Poison Fang. Poison Fang is going to get Surfetched quite low, but Surfetched hangs on and makes the Brave Bird. Brave Bird is going to deal massive damage onto the Golbat, and now I can send in the Shadow QUAGSIRE. I should be able to Mud Shot down before they make the Shadow Ball. They're only going to make it to a Poison Fang here. Opponent tries to go for the Shadow Ball. They do not get there, and Shadow QUAGSIRE up his shield and this much energy. At this point, basically beats most anything that's not a grass type. They send in the Toxicroak. I'm going for the Mud Bomb. They commit the shield. I just have to watch for a catch. They go for the catch, and it's Charizard in the back. And Shadow QUAGSIRE is sweeping the endgame. Stone Edge one-shots the Charizard. Back in comes Toxicroak. I will finally have to burn a shield in this matchup, but this is a very comfortable game ender for the QUAGSIRE as Mud Bomb KOs the Toxicroak. Our target has been acquired in the next match, Toxapex into Carbink. Toxapex wins this matchup going straight Brine. Opponent save switches into Empoleon, and I'm going to send in Surfetched. Surfetched, of course, will be able to outpace. I'm firing off the Leaf Blade. They commit the shield. They're looking to make a play for Switch, but I don't need Switch advantage here, because the good news is my entire team beats Carbink, so even if I don't have Switch advantage, I'm in a great spot here. So I'm just going to let it go and get energy on my Shadow QUAGSIRE. In the back is Ferrothorn, and this is a core breaker for the QUAGSIRE Toxapex core, but QUAGSIRE with energy is just absolutely nasty. As you can see, one Mud Bomb puts them close to half HP. They go for the Mirror Shot bait. They get the debuff. That is not good. I'm going to bank a ton of energy and bring in the Toxapex. And now we have Toxapex versus Carbink, the battle of the bulk. I'm going for the Brine. That will hit for super effective damage. Carbink continuing to farm. And I'm not going to be shielding the Toxapex here. Carbink is going to fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide connects onto the Toxapex. And as you can see, with both of these Pokemon being extremely bulky, it does not do a lot of damage. Here, I go for the neutral Sludge Wave, hoping it's going to be enough to get the farm down after, and it is. In comes the Ferrothorn. I'm going for the Brine here. Brine is resisted, but at this point, I just need any chip damage I can get, and I should be very close to double Mud Bomb on the QUAGSIRE. So I can bring back in the QUAGSIRE, and I'm making it to the Mud Bombs. Mud Bomb number 1 gets the shield, and we make it to Mud Bomb number 2. Shadow QUAGSIRE is a grass counter confirmed, and that's a good game. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Toxapex into Shadow Dragonair. Ideally, I would love to try and get an early shield advantage and then save switch out of this matchup. They're going to be firing off a Body Slam, perfectly fine by me. I can very comfortably tank the Body Slam here. I'm farming up, and I actually go for a bit of a risky bait here. I mean, Shadow Dragonairs love to shield, but I probably should have just gone for the Sludge Wave. Now I can send in the Surfetched. They're going to be able to get the shield back, but I've now gotten that Dragonair into a range where any of my Pokemon will be able to farm it down later. Opponent sends in Dubwool, and I'm full sending the Brave Bird here. If they're sending in the Dubwool, they might be weak, and the Brave Bird connects. Get that Dubwool out of here. What is that final Pokemon? Their final Pokemon is Cresselia. So the opponent read the team, understanding that I was trying to bait out the Cresselia with the Surfetched save switch, and now things are getting interesting. Brave Bird is going to get the shield. I can bring in the Toxapex to absorb energy here. They're firing off the Grass Knot. That works for me. Can I make it to the Sludge Wave? I cannot. They're firing off another Grass Knot. And again, I'm going up against a Mom that has a grass move. But Shadow QUAGSIRE up a shield is an absolute beast. They go for the catch onto the Dragonair. QUAGSIRE fully farms down. And Shadow QUAGSIRE is just an absolute menace in this cup. We go for the Mud Bomb into the Stone Edge. Cresselia, very bulky Pokemon. It does not matter. And that's game over. Tough lead in the next match, Toxapex into Cofagrigus. Immediate save switch into Surfetched will be answered with Pidgeot. Pidgeot farming up, I go for the Brave Bird here. I want to guarantee switch advantage or shield advantage. My opponent gives up the shield. They're now going to get the full farm down, but honestly, I've gotten them below half health, and I've gotten that ever-important shield advantage. I can now send in Toxapex, use Toxapex as a meat shield, and trust in Shadow QUAGSIRE to sweep the endgame. Brave Bird does a lot of damage, though. They're going to make it to another Brave Bird, and I just really have to hope that I can survive here. Brave Bird leaves me on 1 HP. I just can't switch, and I end up getting KO'd. I should have thrown the Brine there, so I could have preserved the Toxapex for a potential catch later in the game. My opponent now sends in Cofagrigus into the QUAGSIRE. I fire off the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb does a solid chunk of damage, but unfortunately, it looks like a second Mud Bomb is not going to be enough to KO. So here, you're actually going to see me make a mistake. I should have gone for the Stone Edge, because as you're going to see, Mud Bomb barely does not KO. They're able to grab my final shield with the Cofagrigus, and in the back, they have Shadow Machamp. And unfortunately, Shadow Machamp is going to be able to win this game. Mud Bomb gets the shield, but Machamp has the Cross Chop loaded. That's going to KO the QUAGSIRE, and that's game over. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Toxapex into an opposing QUAGSIRE. Save switch into Surfetched. Opponent is going to send in Cresselia. Cresselia farming up. This is only a Grass Knot, but I believe I miscounted at the time. Thought it was enough for the Moonblast, and I commit the shield. Definitely not ideal there whatsoever. I'm going to fire off the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade will be no-shielded by my opponent. I'm farming up, going for the Brave Bird on the CMP tie, and this will be lethal. Opponent is going to commit the shield, so unfortunately, I do not get that shield advantage that Shadow QUAGSIRE absolutely thrives with in the endgame. But the good news is, I can now send in Toxapex, and Toxapex will be able to absorb Grass Knot after Grass Knot from the Cresselia, and really sacrifice its HP in exchange for a massive amount of energy. I'm continuing to farm. They're firing off another Grass Knot here. Grass Knot is going to connect. I'm looking to get them low here, farm up too close to 100, and snipe with the Shadow QUAGSIRE. Now we don't have the shield advantage, but we have an energy lead. My opponent is going to send in Charizard. I'm farming up here, and I'm actually going to go for a bait. Stone Edge would easily one-shot the Charizard. Mud Bomb bait gets the shield. That's fantastic. I have to watch for a catch, as my opponent can try and catch the Stone Edge onto their Quag. I'm farming up. They go for the catch, but I'm able to hang on to my energy, and now I can fire off the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb connects. They're firing off a Mud Bomb of their own, but I am not in a range where Mud Bomb will KO. Mud Bomb connects. I'm able to hang on, make it to another Mud Bomb. Now the question is, will this be lethal? Mud Bomb barely is not. They make the last second charge move, but I still should have this game won. If you remember, I banked so much energy on that Toxapex. We did leave with 100 energy, and the Charizard is not going to make the blast burn that it needs. Brine number 1 connects, and we make Brine number 2 as well. Toxapex fighting back, KOing the Charizard, and securing the win. Same leads in the next match, Toxapex versus regular QUAGSIRE. I will say, I do think the Shadow is quite a bit better. My opponent is now going to counter switch into a Shadow Kanto Ninetales. The nice thing here is I can grab shield advantage. I'm able to grab a shield from my opponent. They're firing off a charge move, and I have a decision to make. Do I want the 2-to-1 shield or the 1-to-0 shield? And I decide, you know what? I'm going to fight for switch or get both shields, and I'm able to get both shields. This is quite nice, as now, again, in the 1-to-0s, I believe Shadow QUAGSIRE has a 93% win rate versus Pokemon eligible in the Great League Remix Cup. So up a shield, it's just absolutely disgusting. They go for the overheat. I snipe with the Shadow QUAGSIRE, and in the back, my opponent has Dugong. And again, being up a shield, QUAGSIRE is in a fantastic position to close. Stone Edge rocks the Dugong. Dugong is going to fire off the charge move here. Icy Wind will, of course, debuff me, so they will go for the Icy Wind. Now, I'm going to look to overfarm as much as possible and go for the Mud Bomb just before they make Icy Wind number 2. Mud Bomb will KO, and now it's the battle of Quags, but unfortunately, I am debuffed. I farm up a ton of energy. I was looking to try and pivot out, but my clock wasn't up quite yet, so I'm actually going to send in the Toxapex and save the Mud Bomb on my Shadow Quag for later. I've now reset the debuff on my Quag. I'm farming up, and I make it to the Brine. And the nice thing here is my opponent cannot Mudshot down. Toxapex is absurdly bulky. They cannot Mudshot down, they're forced to throw a move, and as long as I save a shield for my QUAGSIRE, this game is won because I have a Mud Bomb of my own loaded. So I can bring back in my QUAGSIRE, KO theirs, and that's a good game. We see a tough core breaker on the lead in the next match, Toxapex into Shadow Beedrill. Now Beedrill, of course, does very well into both the Toxapex and the Surfetch'd. Beedrill is going to be able to strike first, going for the super effective Drill Run. But again, part of what I love about Toxapex is its bulk. Opponent goes for a catch onto Cofagrigus. Honestly, I don't have a fantastic response to the Cofagrigus safe switch, so I end up sending in Surfetch'd. I'm firing off the Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade is going to be no-shielded by my opponent. I do have some stored energy, so I will commit a shield. I want to try and apply pressure onto the Cofagrigus, so I'm going to farm up quite a bit and then go for Leaf Blade number 2. Now this will be lethal. Opponent, they are going to commit the shield. They're returning fire with another charge move. And at this point, I'm in a bit of an awkward spot here. Coffin safe switch, definitely a soft spot for this team. And now, do I send in the QUAGSIRE? Yes, we do. We're going to send in the QUAGSIRE here, farming up a ton of energy. We get the catch onto the Toxapex. Unfortunately, I lose a ton of energy on the Toxapex, but I am trusting in the fact that Shadow QUAGSIRE with energy is just too strong. And now, what do they have? They bring back in the Beedrill, and I'm not baiting. Stone Edge, goodbye Beedrill. It's a Skuntank in the back, and it's all over for my opponent. A Shadow Mud Bomb is going to hit so hard onto the Skuntank. Skuntank makes the last second charge move. I can shield with the QUAGSIRE, Mudshot KOs, and that's game over. Hopping into the final match, we see a Nightmare lead Toxapex into Unova Stunfisk. Two better responses in the back. I'm going to save switch into Surfetch'd, and Surfetch'd will be answered with Como-O. My opponent ends up throwing on Alignment, which gives me a counter for free, and that's quite nice. I'm firing off the Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade is resisted, but it will deal some solid damage onto the Kommo-o and allow me to farm down. That's fantastic. Opponent sends in Machamp. Oh my goodness. We're going for the Brave Bird. Goodbye, Machamp. All that's left is the Ufisk in the back. And Shadow QUAGSIRE, even down a shield, is going to be able to close out this game. They can go for Mud Bomb after Mud Bomb, but it's not going to matter. They only hit for neutral, whereas my Mud Bombs will hit for super effective damage. Opponent, at this point, looks like they've recognized the game's over. I send in the Toxapex just to look for the catch, and Toxapex is going to Poison Jab all the way down. All in all, Shadow QUAGSIRE is an absolute menace in the Great League Remix Cup, and especially with Pokemon like Carbink, which especially at higher elos, I'm expecting to be extremely common. Having a Pokemon in your arsenal that is good into the entire meta, but especially destroys the pay-to-win Carbink is a definite plus in my book. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.